Okay, you guys, you may see me standing here like a dork. Oh, yeah, there I am. Okay, I think we're live. And I'm going to make my window bigger. Okay, we're here. I did it. We are live. I'm using Zoom software and I am streaming it into our group. I've been practicing with this all day. So I'm happy that that just went really smoothly because there were times today when it did not. I think it's probably going to take a couple minutes for people to get online and join us. And if you could do me a favor when you arrive and send a comment and let me know that you're here so I know I'm not talking to an empty room, that would be super awesome. I am so excited that you guys have joined me in this little adventure of mine. This is the first experience for me to teach in this format. It is, oh, hey, Brooke. Hey, Meg. Thanks. Yay, I'm not the only one here. This is a little bit of a new teaching format for me. It is interactive in that you can hear me. I can't hear you, but I can read your comments. So if you have any questions at any time, I will try to catch them there. That would be great. And while people are hopping online, I thought I would just start and give you a little bit about my background. Let's see, I'll start with about 10 years ago. I had a perfectly delightful little life. I was married, I had 2 kids, I lived in the house that I swore I would never move from, and I was 40 years old. And then 9 years ago, when I was 41, all of that kind of unraveled. My tiny little life was not so tidy anymore. My dad got a brain cancer diagnosis, which devastated us all. A few months later, I found out that my husband wanted a divorce, which totally took me by surprise. He had been having an affair with a friend of mine, and that cascaded into all kinds of financial issues. We ended up declaring bankruptcy. We had multiple commercial real estate investments foreclosed on. I got the house in the divorce, but I couldn't afford to live in it. So I ended up selling it for less than what I owed. And my whole point in telling you all of this is that if you've experienced it or you are experiencing it, most likely I have too, or at least some variety of it. So we're all in good company. We all struggle with things. And what we're going to talk about tonight are how to control our thoughts, to be intentional with our thoughts so that we can change our circumstances. I will say that I have survived all of the trauma and my life is amazing now. I took the opportunity of being topsy-turvy and put my life back together very deliberately. There was a moment, or I remember just having this epiphany or this insight that I didn't know how things were going to work out, but I knew that I was going to be okay, even if I couldn't see what the destination is. And that brought me a lot of relief, as well as a thought of things work out for me. That is a mantra that I have carried with me for probably 8, 9 years in there. In fact, I still carry it with me, and not just in my mind, but now physically. Look, I got a tattoo about a month ago. Things work out for me. I'm hoping you can see that because there's a weird delay. Like it doesn't show up on my screen until like 20 seconds later. Anyway, that's just sort of a fun thing that I wanted to share with you. Oh, Stephanie has joined us. Hello, and Johanna. This is awesome. Again, if you're just joining, let me know that you're here. Say hello. And so that's my story. And we'll now sort of get started. Oh, thanks. I love the dragonfly too. the dragonfly is a symbol of metamorphosis and transformation, and I really feel like I've transformed myself, and so it's very significant to me. Okay, the work that I'm going to be sharing with you tonight is work that a woman named Brooke Castillo put together, and she has a business called the Life Coach School. And Brooke is very generous with her information. Part of her business is training life coaches and coaching people in general, but she gives everyone in the world permission to share her ideas with credit. And so I think that's pretty phenomenal. What was I going to say? I guess that's it for now. Okay, so I want to start by talking about this thing called the negative spin cycle. I mean, just the name of it, can you relate? Give me a thumbs up. We tend to get thoughts that circle around in our head, right? And so what the way Brooke lays this out is that she says thoughts, what we're thinking in our head, trigger our feelings. Our feelings influence or create our actions, and then our actions is what get our results. Oh, I now remember what I was going to say. Brooke Castillo is the first person to say she did not invent this information. What she did was she studied some of our current modern thought leaders on thought, if that makes sense, like Tony Robbins and Abraham Hicks, Byron Katie, Eckhart Tolle, Marcus Beck, and then she sort of like took all of the information that they were saying, which is all kind of the same, they just say it differently. And so she's distilled it into a few models that I'm going to be sharing with you. Okay, so anyway, back to this. Thoughts influence our feelings, influence create our actions, and actions create our results. Now, there's also something called the joy cycle. And the joy cycle looks like this. Our thoughts create our feelings. Our feelings create our actions. And our actions create our results. Pretty interesting, right? It's exactly the same. It's exactly the same, but the difference is right here. The difference is what we're thinking and what's inside our brain, okay? Now, I would suggest that there are a lot of cycles in between the negative spin cycle and the joy cycle. You know, we can't go from negative to happy immediately. We need some resting places in between. And I call them kind of like neutral places, or maybe a place of relief, like just kind of a relief cycle. And, but in all cases, whatever cycle you're in, here is where the power is. And so let me give you an example. And by the way, like what is triggering these cycles are circumstances. Circumstances are neither positive or negative. They are neutral. It's our thoughts that turn them into positive or negative. Okay, and we'll be talking more about that. Okay, so there was a time in my life when I was much heavier than I am now. And there was a thought that I held in my head probably every minute of every day, from the time I woke up in the morning to the time I went to the bathroom at any time and saw a mirror, to when I overheard people talking about me or I thought they were talking about me. And that thought was, I'm fat, right? So that thought was just constantly in my head all day long, over and over and over. And I knew it. It wasn't like I didn't try to do something about it, but anything I tried, I just couldn't stick with. Um, so the thought I'm fat led to feelings like shame. I felt unworthy. And I felt broken. I felt broken because I couldn't fix the problem. Every Monday rolled around and I would try a new diet, but I couldn't do it because these feelings, shame, unworthiness, and feeling broken, caused the action to overeat. So far, so good. Meg, it's okay. You're fine on my end. If you pop in and out because of your internet connection, it's not a problem. So the results that I would get from overeating would be to stay exactly the same or to gain weight. And here's the thing, our results always provide evidence to our thoughts. And so then it cycles around again. I'm staying the same, I'm gaining weight, I'm fat, I feel shame, unworthiness, and broken. I eat, I'm overeating because I want to numb the feelings. I don't want to feel these feelings. And one way that I could do that was to overeat. Okay? And so this is a negative spin cycle. Now, the circumstance is my weight. The circumstance is not positive or negative. It was just a thing. It was just my body. It was a number on a scale, but it was my thoughts that made it feel negative. Okay. So instead of a joy cycle right here, I'm going to say we're going to move over to like a relief cycle. So if I had chosen a different thought than I'm fat, let's take a look at what that might look like, because we can control our thoughts. So looking at this in hindsight, I could have thought something very neutral. Let me say something very important about our thoughts. We cannot think thoughts and get different results, change our actions and get different results if we don't believe the thought. So I could not have just literally thought the thought that I'm thin because I wouldn't have believed it. I still would have felt these same feelings. But what I could do is think a thought that I could believe. And one thought might have been, I can learn. Okay. I knew I could learn. You know, I did well in high school. I graduated from college. I had a bachelor's degree. I went to business school. So I could have landed on that thought and felt some very different feelings. Well, speaking of the relief cycle, I think I would have felt some relief. I think I would have felt empowered. Like, yeah, I can learn. I can control that. Therefore, I feel empowered. Okay. So I can learn leads to feelings of relief and empowerment. And I can imagine that if I felt those feelings, I would have chosen to take action by learning something new. Right? Maybe I would have asked someone else what was working for them. Maybe I would have gone to the library and researched some diets or something like that. Maybe I would have just started to study about nutrition way back then. And so the results would be that I felt better. Results feel better. Better. Sorry about my handwriting, guys. It's probably not the best. Hopefully you can tell the difference between these two models. We'll just draw a line right here. Okay. And feeling better provides evidence for the thought that I can learn. Okay, so this is what these cycles are all about. And again, the power is with thoughts. I'm going to write this out in another way, and it's going to be it's going to be linear instead of circular. But if you have any questions in the meantime, pop them into the comment section. Don't you love this old school, like, whiteboard? I mean, it's not so old school as a chalkboard, but, you know, it's not a PowerPoint, I guess, is my point. It's kind of fun. Okay, so now let's look at this. It's basically the same thing, but this is the format that we're going to look at some examples for the rest of the night. So circumstance creates our thoughts. Our thoughts create our feelings. Our feelings determine our actions. And our actions create our results. And for the sake of simplicity, we're going to call this C, T, F, A, and R. Okay. Oh, I got a big heart from Kelly. Thanks. Johanna says it looks great. Okay. I guess we're doing okay. So far, so good. Okay. Now, let's go through some other examples. Let's say that you hate your job, okay? So the circumstance is you hate your job, but you thought it was going to be your dream job, okay? So you pursued this job, you got this job, you've been working it. Let's say that it's a cake decorating job. Let's say you've always wanted to bake cakes. You want to learn how to frost them and make the flowers and make the little animals on top, right? And you've done some learning on your own, you figured some things out, and you want to do this full time, so you get a job at a bakery, right? You get your dream job. So you start off, you've got lots of energy, you love it, you're learning new things, you're frosting away, you've got the cakes, you've got the cupcakes. And then the second month, you're like, okay, this is okay, but you know, I'm not learning as many new things. I'm not as excited as I was, but you know, it's still a good job. And then like your third month, you're like thinking, I can't do this anymore. There's just too much repetition. I can't grow. I've learned as much as I can learn. So you start thinking, I hate my job. All right. So what are some feelings that you think I hate my job might create in your body? What kind of physical vibration? Oh, Shira's in and out. That's okay, Shira. I understand. We all live very, very busy lives. Maybe you would feel, maybe you would start to feel apathetic. Like, you know what? I really don't want to do this anymore. I'm not going to try as hard as I was going to. You kind of like phone it in, right? Tired. Meg says tired. Yeah, right. If you hate your job, it's not an energy booster, is it? Right? You're just feeling more drained than anything else. Maybe you, wait, let me look at the right. Maybe you feel frustrated. You know, it didn't turn out the way you thought it might. And maybe you even feel guilty, right? Maybe your best friend or your mother's best friend or, depleted. That's a really, really good one. Yeah. Maybe someone helps you get the job, so you feel really super guilty, right? I'm going to move the little A down. So some actions. Can you think of some actions that these feelings, depleted, apathetic, tired, frustration, guilty, might trigger you to do? Like maybe you hold it together all day long at the job, and then you get home and you yell at your family, right? You yell at your kids, you yell at your spouse. It's all hell breaks loose. You hold it together during the day, and then you get home and you just can't hold it in anymore. Or maybe you overeat. Maybe you overdrink. I've done all of these. I'm not a big yeller, but I'm definitely relate to overeat and overdrink. Yeah, Brooke, giving up, half-assing it. Yeah, you kind of phone it in, right? You're not gonna try as hard. Phone it in. And so the results are, you probably don't feel really good, right? You probably don't feel good about the situation. Oh yeah, zone out for sure. Zone out. That's a good one. Like our Facebook feed is one way. TV is another way. And so we don't feel good. Hopefully you can see this down here. It looks okay to me. If it's starting to be that you can't read that, let me know. Yeah. So you basically just don't feel good about yourself. And you don't feel good, and you just keep hating your job, and you just keep going through this cycle and cycle and cycle all over again. Yeah, so zoning out on Facebook for sure. It's a big one for all of us. All right, so you're in this job. You're hating it, but maybe you can't go from I hate my job to I love my job. But could you think of some maybe neutral thoughts to sort of get you there? Maybe I'm learning new things. Maybe there are some things that you can learn there. Let's see. How about this is a really good thought that I use all the time. I'm figuring things out. Okay, so I don't love the dream job after all, but it's helping me to figure out what I do like. Because if I don't like this, then I can cross it off my list, right? I can move on to something else. Another thought might be, I can use these skills. Maybe you don't want to be a full-time cake decorator, but maybe you still want to do it as a hobby. Maybe you want to do it for friends and family, or maybe a little tiny side business, something like that. Oh, I'm seeing happy faces. I love emojis. Thanks, guys. That's awesome. I wish there wasn't such a lag. Like, I wish that I could get your comments faster, because I'm like ready to move on, and I haven't heard from you guys yet, but that's okay. So these thoughts might make you feel a sense of relief, right? It might make you feel empowered. Okay. Let's see, what else did I write down in my examples? I guess that's it. So if you're feeling relieved and you're feeling empowered, then maybe an action that you would take instead of all of these things might be to make a plan. Maybe you're like, okay, this is where I am. I wanted this job. I'm in this job. I'm not going to quit tomorrow because I haven't been here very long, but I can make a plan. Like maybe 6 months from now, I'm going to leave. So what am I going to do in the meantime? Okay, well, I can start looking around. I can start updating my resume. I now have this experience. And so that action of making a plan is going to give you a different result. Again, you're going to feel better. This is kind of similar to the other example. Feel better, you realize you're learning, you're figuring things out, I can use these skills. So this evidence, ooh, hopeful, yes, definitely. You feel more hopeful. Thanks, Meg. You're good at this because you're a word girl. I love you. Yeah. So hopefully you're starting to see how powerful this model is. I'm going to take a quick drink of water. Again, if you have any questions, post them in the comments. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I'm double checking. I bought earpods last night just for this, and it makes the audio quality quite good. I just wanted to make sure I had connected them and turned them on, and they weren't just hanging out my ears for no good reason. Okay, so, oh, you know what? I want to also point out that this model is really useful and in what do I want to say? You don't have to do the model top down. It's really useful. You can back into situations. You don't even have to use the entire model all at once. Here's an example of how I used it last week. So I had a situation in my life where someone who is important to me, a good friend of my daughter's, ended up in the hospital. Okay, and he's literally fighting for his life in the ICU. And so the thought that I kept thinking over and over is, he might die. And the feelings I was feeling were incredible sadness and incredible grief. Ooh, just a little wave of emotion just flew over me. That's not the right word. Anyway, I kept thinking he might die. I was feeling sad. I was grieving. I was crying all the time. It's a good friend of my daughter's. My daughter isn't in the country. She's in India. She doesn't know anything about this situation. And it's just been driving me crazy. But after a week of feeling sad and grief, I decided I didn't want to feel that way anymore. And so, you know, I knew I couldn't feel happy. I knew I couldn't be joyful or excited. But what I could feel was hope. And I could feel relief. I use relief a lot because I feel like it's an important emotion. I think it's an emotion. I feel like there's always a step you can take to kind of get a little breath, catch yourself a little bit. So I did the model backwards. I was thinking he might die. I was feeling sadness and grief. I wanted to feel more hopeful. I wanted to feel relief. So I thought, what thoughts can I be thinking to get to here? And so what I came up with is basically he's safe in the hospital. And prior to going in the hospital, he was being cared for in a home environment, but the relative wasn't a true provider. It was just a relative. But once I knew he was in the hospital, I knew he was getting all the care that he needed. I knew he was safe. So that brought me hope. And then another thought I had was, if he dies, he will no longer suffer. Because he's been suffering. He's suffered for over a year. Gosh, I didn't think I'd get so emotional. And so I felt better. I could feel these two feelings thinking these two thoughts. Okay. So, and you can also do the same thing, like if not just with your feelings, but if you want different results, you could say, okay, this is the results I'm getting from something. These are the results I want. If I'm going to get these results, how do I need to act? In order to act, what do I need to feel? To feel that way, what do I need to think, right? It's pretty powerful. I think it's pretty darn amazing. I love this. I use it all the time, this model on myself. I've got some other examples, and I'm trying to go as diverse as I can because we're all struggling in a lot of different areas, and everybody had some different things that they want to talk about. So let's now turn to relationships, okay? Let's say the circumstance is your husband, right? Or your boyfriend, or your girlfriend, or your wife, or whatever, okay? Your partner. But you've been with this, I'm just going to say husband for the sake of simplicity. You've been with him for a really long time, and you don't feel the same way about him. And the thought that you keep thinking is, I don't love him anymore. I mean, that's your thought. It's your truth. Okay. Let's see. Thoughts, feelings, actions, results. Okay. So if you're married, and let's say you have a house together, let's say you have kids together, let's say you have all the same friends, like, how might you feel? Aw, Meg, thanks. You're amazing too. You're invested, right? You're co-invested. You have lots of stuff going on. So you might feel really, really guilty about not loving him. You might feel trapped. And feel free to chime in with anything. I'm going to keep checking the comments. Right? Maybe you feel trapped because you know, maybe you were raised that divorce is bad, or maybe you feel trapped by finances, right? Being trapped can be for a variety of reasons. Maybe you feel regret, like, oh, maybe I married the wrong guy. I don't know. Anything, if anyone posts something into the comments, I will write it up here on the board. So if you're feeling trapped and you're feeling guilty and you don't know if you married the right guy, and you have kids, there's a big chance that you do nothing. Inaction, this is inaction, is actually an action. Okay, it's a little counterintuitive, but when you're doing this model, you can plug in nothing for an action. And then we can go back to all those other things we talked about: numbing, drinking, eating, smoking, exercising, sex. There's all kinds of ways that we numb ourselves, right? So the result is that you're probably feeling pretty miserable, right? That's what I would imagine. And if any of you are feeling that anything similar, or if I'm off target here, keep in mind that these models are not the same for everybody. We all have different thoughts. We all have different feelings. So what you're going to be doing, when I highly encourage you to practice these models yourself and come up with your own situations, your own circumstances, your own thoughts, your own feelings, and work your way through these things. So let's do this one backwards. So let's say the result you want is you want to part ways. It happens. Although I never used to believe hardly anybody did this, because my parents had an amazing, incredible relationship. I thought everyone in the world had amazing, incredible relationships, including myself. And so parting ways, who does that? Now I get it, and I understand why. And I, in some cases, not all cases, encourage it. Okay, anyway, so if you decided that you wanted to part ways with your husband, can you think of some actions that you would want to, that you could do to sort of initiate that process? Maybe it's start a conversation. Maybe it's setting an intention. Maybe you want to set an intention to part ways, but to do it with love and do it with appreciation. I had to do that once, not that long ago. I dated a guy for 3 years, and he's amazing, and he treated me like a queen, and I loved him, and he loved me. But we would talk about our futures, and we would talk about the things that we wanted. And those future plans were going like this. And so I knew we were not destined to be together, despite really loving him very much. So I set an intention to break up with him lovingly, in the best way that I could. And so the conversation went something like this: I love you, and we aren't destined to be together. And that was very challenging and very difficult, but it can be done. And now he and I are wonderful friends, and we hang out and we see each other. We care about each other's kids. So think about that. It doesn't always have to be a bad split. Okay. So in order to start let's just keep going with that example. In order to start a conversation and set an intention to part ways lovingly, you need to feel loving, right? You need to feel appreciation. Okay, I don't know if you all are just not commenting or if there's like a wicked lag. So I'm not seeing anything, and I'm really sorry if you're commenting and I'm not seeing them. Okay, so you need to be feeling love and appreciation. So in order to feel love and appreciation for the spouse that you don't love, it gets a little tricky, doesn't it? You might want to think thoughts like, keep losing my pieces of paper. You can think neutral thoughts, remember. And so one neutral thought is we've outgrown each other. That is not a negative thought. It's not a positive thought. It's just a fact. We've outgrown each other. This is a thought that I thought often about my ex-husband when things were really, really bad. Or no, I didn't think them then. I thought them after, when I was like, okay, I'm still connected to this guy because we have kids. I love times that we spent together, times that we shared. I do. I still love times that we shared. We drove across the country before we were married, and we lived in Arizona for 5 years, and we got married and we had kids, and we took more trips across the country, and we went hiking, and we got married twice. I know, crazy, right? But divorced once. Long story. And so I try still often to remember that I do love the times that we shared, and I do love the fact that he is a good father. Most of the time, not always. Too much information. Okay, but you see how this model works? You can go from staying stuck and nothing changes over here to possibly parting ways by starting a conversation, setting an intention from a feeling of love and appreciation, by thinking thoughts. You know, they have to be true. I mean, if these aren't the thoughts that you, oh, Kelly says, sorry, just really mesmerized. Oh, okay, good. As long as you're not bored out of your mind, because that would make me feel sad, because I love this stuff. I think it's so cool. Okay. So, I am just like rolling through the examples. I'm gonna take a sip of water. Give you another chance to ask questions if you have any. I'm also going to look at the other examples that I have. Ooh. Oh, you know what? I'm going to share an example with you that was tricky for me. This is something that I struggled with. I think I figured it out. But it took a little bit of time. So here's the circumstance. The circumstance is my love of wine. This is a loaded one, okay? So the facts are thoughts, feelings, results, actions. The truth is that there would be times, whoops, I did this wrong. Hold on. Listen with my own lesson here. The actions that I took would be, I would drink a glass of wine. I'd be like, oh, that was great. I'm going to drink another glass of wine. And then I might have a third glass of wine. Okay. And here were the results that I was getting from that. Number one is that I didn't sleep very well. I would wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and not get back to sleep until like 4. It's terrible. Sometimes if I had that third glass of wine and I knew I wasn't going to sleep, I would take a sleeping pill. Okay, I am laying out my entire life for you all. Warts and all. But you know, man, I love to sleep. Sleeping. I wasn't proud of any of these things. So then I felt a lot of guilt. I felt guilty. And I am right now trying to heal a candida overgrowth. And if you don't know what that is, that's basically a overgrowth of yeast in your body. And so you, in trying to heal this, you should not have any sugar. And what do you think wine is filled with? Sugar. So my candida was not getting any better. And in fact, it was getting worse. Candida. Okay. So the thoughts that I was thinking was, I deserve this. I deserve it. I deserve this. I would say I can have one glass. And then I would say it again. I can have one glass, and then I would say it again. Here's where I struggled, was in the feeling section. I'm like, what am I feeling when I'm doing this? I'm like, I don't really know what I'm feeling. So then I decided to ask myself the question in a different way. Why am I drinking so many glasses of wine? Why am I doing it? And I had to sit with this for a little while. I really wasn't sure at first, because sometimes we don't know how we're feeling, right? But remember, it's a sensation, it's an emotion in your body. And so then I realized that some of the time I'm just bored, right? I'm still single. I'm not remarried. I spend a lot of time by myself. I have a lot of friends too, but I have a lot of time by myself, and I just literally get bored. I'm like, so I'll pour myself a glass of wine. Sometimes I might feel lonely. Sometimes I might feel like my brain does a lot of thinking. I do, like I'm constantly thinking about something, or reading, or watching a documentary or video of some kind. So I really did just want to kind of numb that turning around. So yep, bored, lonely, numb. Sometimes I feel lost. Like, am I doing the right thing? You know, or doubt. Like, do people want my services? Like, am I putting all my eggs in this basket for like a good reason? And so once I asked the why question, I'm like, okay, these are the feelings that I'm feeling. I could plug them in over here, right? Bored, lonely, numb. Not that I felt numb. I wanted to feel numb, lost, doubt. So I felt like, okay, we're making some progress, So then I had to choose different thoughts. And so here was one. I have better things to do. I only have one life. I want to make the most of it. I think I already mentioned, like, I had this blank slate of recreating my life, and I wanted to be very deliberate. And there's so many things on my bucket list that I want to do. So I'd rather be doing them than sitting home alone drinking too much wine. So I have better things to do is one thought I had. What else? Hold on. Oh, I've spread my notes out to so many different places. Oh, this one. I can enjoy myself or I think this one applies more like if I'm going out, I can enjoy myself or have just as much fun. I can have just as much fun with 0 or 1 glass, right? Because the whole point of going out is really to be with my friends and to connect and exchange ideas and to tell each other stories. I can have just as much fun whether I have 1 glass of wine or I have 3. And then this thought is being very intentional. I choose not to numb myself. Okay. So then I got inspired and I went to the library and I got some books, and then I started reading more often, or like I might go shopping, or I might, I don't know, maybe I'll just watch a Netflix movie for fun. It's not something I normally do, but you know what? There's so many more ways than that I could enjoy myself than just sitting and drinking. So, and what I can say is just simply having this awareness, like literally just asking the question, why am I doing this? It has been a game changer. Like I hardly ever think about wine at the end of the day, which used to be a daily thing, right? Whether I had it or not, I would at least think about it. It's funny. Like, so I'm getting different results, right? I'm sleeping better. I am sleeping. I don't have to take something to sleep. I don't feel guilty. And my candida is getting better, right? So that worked really well for me. I think that was super helpful. Johanna, so is the idea of working through your current situation is the first column and what you do in the second column? Yeah, that's how I set it up. And I think you don't have to do it this way. What you can just jump to this part if you want. For this workshop, I was just trying to like put the things side by side. But actually, when I'm doing it myself, I will still sometimes put things side by side. Or sometimes, like I love having this whiteboard now because I will run through certain models with myself, and I can kind of just sketch them out now pretty quickly. So I don't have to be quite so step by step by step. Anyone else have any other questions? We haven't talked about money and finances, and we're not going to have enough time. But here's some homework for you, because I did this and it was super interesting. I wrote down like every thought that I had about money. And here are some of them. I want more money. I need more money. Money is on its way to me. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Money makes my life easier. Money gives me more freedom. So I had 11 statements, and I ran every single statement through this model. It's so funny to me that it's just called the model. I think it's actually called the life school model. But anyway, Brooke just calls it the model. I ran every money statement through and realized that the 11 statements I had were kind of divided into 2 camps, ones that were positive and ones that were negative. And then the ones that were negative made me feel kind of graspy, maybe kind of desperate, some desperation, hopeless, doubtful. And those feelings caused me to take inaction, caused me to flail around like without focus, trying a lot of different things, or the numbing that we already talked about. But the thoughts that felt positive, made me feel positive, made me feel relief, hopeful, excited, and like trustfulness, trusting myself, I guess. And those feelings make me choose very different actions, which is showing up, creating new offers, connecting with people, doing more speaking engagements, self-coaching, letting myself be seen. And it's just really, really fascinating. So all of those actions expose me to more people who may want my services. But what the other revealing thing about that is that when you have contradictory feelings, you're going to get contradictory results, right? So if you're half the time you're thinking really positive things and half the time you're thinking negative things, you're kind of just going to stay right where you are. That's been my experience. And one other thing I want to mention before we before this is over is that sometimes we phrase a thought as positive when we're really feeling negative. So I want you to be aware of that. So like, I'm trying to find, so this thought, money makes my life easier. Money makes my life easy, right? It sounds sort of neutral and it sounds sort of positive, but it's actually the feeling is lack, right? Or hard, I guess. So that if you don't have money, then your life is hard. So you want to really pick a different thought if this is how you're going to feel. So you might go to my mantra, things work out for me. Or you might think something like money is on its way to me. I don't have to know how, it's going to show up. Or I'll figure this out. I love that one. I'm figuring this out, right? So I guess we're at the end. I see that it's close to 8 o'clock. Two quick things. One is that if you want to stay connected and you're interested in other workshops or trainings, please send me or post your email address, because like I said, I lost all the ones that you've already given me and I'm so sorry. Sorry for the extra work. The second thing is I love doing this stuff and I totally encourage you to do this on your own. Brooke Castillo has a couple of books too. You could go find them, you can self-coach yourself, but if you ever feel like stuck or it's too hard on your own or anything like that, give me a jingle, let's sit down and talk about it. Maybe I can help you and we can figure things out from there. So that's it for now. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And for those of you I don't know yet face-to-face, I certainly hope to meet you in the near future. And thanks to all of you who I know and love. Mwah. Bye. I'm going to hang up now as soon as I find the right button. All right, bye.